Okay, let's dive right into this. Picture this. You're on a luxury Swiss vacation, pristine shores of Lake Maggiore, five-star service, the absolute pinnacle of high society at the La Palma Olac Hotel. Sounds like a dream, right? It's the kind of setting that practically screams relaxation and romance. But on the morning of April 9, 2019, that beautiful, glossy facade was shattered by a horrific crime scene. It left investigators grappling with one chilling question: what actually drives someone to commit the ultimate act of betrayal? Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unravel the perfect illusion and uncover the true motive behind murder.
When paramedics finally breached the doors of the hotel's finest suite on the 5th floor, room 501, they didn't find a medical emergency. They walked into absolute chaos. I mean, the sheer scale of the destruction was immediately apparent. This was clearly not just a simple disagreement. Heavy furniture had been aggressively shoved and overturned, literally leaving deep scratches carved right into the floorboards. Clothing was scattered everywhere, and really tellingly, pieces of torn photographs showing members of 22-year-old Anna Florence Reed's family were just covering the ground. Even the telephone wires had been violently ripped directly from the walls, making it totally impossible to call for help. And there, lying on the cold bathroom tile, was Anna. She was a young woman from a wealthy British family, and she was no longer breathing.
To understand how this happened, we really have to look at the timeline. At 2 a.m., surveillance footage shows Anna and her 29-year-old boyfriend, a German national named Mark Schitzula, returning to the hotel. They look perfectly calm, but just an hour later at 3 a.m., guests in neighboring rooms call the front desk. They're reporting the sounds of a terrifying struggle and a woman screaming. So the hotel makes a quick warning call to the room, and then dead silence. This is the absolutely crucial point here. For 3.5 hours, there is complete silence. Mark does absolutely nothing to seek help during that massive 3.5-hour gap. It isn't until 6:30 a.m. that he casually takes the elevator, not the stairs in a total panic, but the elevator down to the lobby to just calmly ask for medical assistance.
Section 1. The perfect illusion. A carefully crafted lie.
Now that bizarre 3.5-hour delay, that was the first major red flag for investigators. It pointed to a truth that was way darker than just a sudden tragedy. To see the roots of this, we really have to follow the money. Anna had inherited nearly $320,000, but more importantly, she had a premium banking card tied to a massive family trust. We're not talking about your standard everyday debit card here. This was a gateway to virtually unlimited financial resources, allowing her to fund an endless cycle of international travel. By the time they arrived in Switzerland, Anna was dropping upwards of $25,000 every single month. She thought she was just enjoying this incredible globe-trotting romance with an equal partner.
But here's the thing about Mark. He projected this incredibly curated persona. To Anna and to his social media followers under his online alias Pure Cocaine, he was this highly successful international entrepreneur. He wore the designer brands, posted photos from upscale VIP nightclubs, and presented himself as this wealthy bad boy living the ultimate life of luxury. But behind all that digital smoke and mirrors, Mark was actually a former nightclub bouncer with a history of alleged insurance fraud, and he was battling substance dependencies. He wasn't her peer at all. He was a desperate dependent. In fact, while he was sitting there, sipping $430 champagne on Anna's dime, official banking investigations revealed Mark was secretly drowning in nearly 40,000 Swiss francs of debt. He had absolutely no stable income, his bank accounts were frozen, and financial enforcement orders were literally waiting for him back in Germany. So, Anna's premium bank card wasn't just funding a fun vacation, it was his literal lifeline to avoid total financial ruin.
Section 2. The financial breaking point. A devastating collision.
You know, illusions can really only be maintained for so long before reality comes crashing in. Behind the closed doors of room 501, tension had been seriously brewing. Anna was experiencing an awakening. She started telling her family she wanted to stop this endless, exhausting cycle of luxury travel. She wanted to head back to the United Kingdom, enroll in a university mathematics program, and actually build a real future. She was finally waking up to the massive financial drain this lifestyle and Mark was putting on her resources. But for Mark, Anna packing her bags didn't just mean a messy breakup. It meant imminent financial disaster, creditors, and possible criminal investigations waiting for him the second he went home.
And that brings us to the chilling psychological moment. The financial motive turned lethal. During that 3 a.m. physical confrontation we talked about earlier, neighbors in room 502 heard distinct impacts against the wall and two horrifyingly clear phrases. "Are you serious right now? And you're going to destroy me." Now, that wasn't a lover's quarrel. That was the sound of a desperate man realizing his personal ATM was permanently closing her account.
Honestly, nothing symbolizes that final rejection quite like what investigators found amidst the torn photos and broken furniture, a discarded engagement ring. But here's the real kicker. Mark actually bought that ring using Anna's own money. It was never a symbol of love. It was a desperate tool of control, a pathetic attempt to lock down his connection to a massive fortune. Finding it just thrown among the wreckage was the ultimate sign that Anna had finally seen through his illusion and was rejecting his manipulation entirely.
Section 3. Dismantling the defense. Shattering his lies.
Once he was arrested, Mark immediately spun this wild story to explain away the chaos. But let's take a closer look at his calculated cover-up. Remember that 3.5-hour gap of silence. He claimed it was a tragic accident during a consensual experiment and that he just panicked. But his actions? They scream the exact opposite. Paramedics noted Anna's skin was unusually warm, even though she had passed away hours earlier. Well, forensic specialists concluded Mark deliberately placed her body in warm water to artificially slow tissue cooling and confuse the time of death. Then he methodically cleaned himself up before ever stepping foot in the lobby. This wasn't a panic response, guys. This was a calculated, emotionally detached attempt to manipulate a crime scene.
Forensic science systematically dismantled his entire defense, piece by piece. Mark claimed it was a consensual accident. The reality from the autopsy? A fractured hyoid bone. Forensic specialists universally recognize that as a direct indicator of forceful manual strangulation. On top of that, severe bruising inside her mouth proves someone had forcefully silenced her screams. During interrogation, Mark tried to claim memory loss about why he didn't call for help, blaming alcohol and substances. Yet, amazingly, his memory was razor-sharp whenever he needed to recall specific details that supported his own version of events. The forensic reality proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was a desperate fight for survival, definitely not some game gone wrong.
Section 4. The ultimate motive. The smoking gun. The physical evidence proved it was murder, for sure. But the prosecution still needed a smoking gun to prove exactly why it happened. Well, 5 months after the crime, they found it. And this is the absolute mic drop moment of the whole investigation. A hotel maintenance technician was doing some routine work and found something tucked away behind a ceiling panel inside the hotel elevator. It was Anna's Premium American Express Centurion card, the exact one connected to that $320,000 trust. Mark didn't lose his mind in a tragic accident. He deliberately took her multi-million-dollar access card and hid it in a highly obscure location, fully intending to come back and retrieve it later once the dust settled. Just absolute, cold-blooded financial calculation.
The court saw right through the digital facade and the staged crime scene. In his closing remarks, Judge Marco Armani delivered this blistering summary, calling Mark a true parasite and a man who viewed Anna not as a loved one, but simply as a financial instrument. Because of his exceptional cynicism and unyielding greed, Mark was originally sentenced to 18 years, and then an appellate court later shockingly increased it to 18.5 years, specifically noting his extreme danger to society. Which really leaves us with a terrifying reality to ponder. We live in an era where literally anyone can project a life of endless wealth and success online. But as this explainer clearly shows, the gap between a curated image and desperate reality can be vast, and in some cases, it can be deadly. If a calculating predator can mask their lethal financial desperation behind a glossy social media feed, gaining access to our lives and our resources, how easily can we be deceived by the perfect illusion? Definitely something to think about the next time you're scrolling through a picture-perfect life. Thanks for joining me today, and stay safe out there.